Let me start the 37th session of Secrets of Spirituality to discuss the God-given immunity check. We had discussed about Naga at length in the last session. So today let me proceed to the next Upaprana called Kurma. The blinking of the eyes is because of the Upaprana called Kurma, and the vomiting and burping sensations are because of the Upaprana called Naga, which we had discussed in the previous session. And the sneezing and coughing is because of the Upaprana called Krikala. Yawning is because of the Upaprana called Devadatta. And wheezing is because of the Upaprana called Dhananjaya. As I have been mentioning earlier, for all these functionalities, in general, there is no need of the brain's signal. There are many actions which are happening in the body. They are called as involuntary actions. And some of these actions are autonomous. Autonomous in the sense they are not connected to the brain also. And the body takes its own decision based on the prevailing situation, without many times even brain intervening with this. So the general notion that brain is the most superior part of the body need not be taken that way. As I had told you earlier, there is an individual ego, there is a natural ego, and then there is a divine ego. The prana and upaprana come under natural ego. They are not under the purview of the individual ego. So the modern thinking that everything is controlled with the brain is not really an accurate assumption or an accurate reality. Brain is also one part of the body, just like all other parts are. And all these parts have their own consciousness, their own intelligence. Because again, in these parts, there are these cellular organisms, and the cells have their own intelligence or their own consciousness in their level of working. That is why the name given in the yogic terms is prana. Prana means something beyond the physical apparatus. So coming back to the second upaprana, kurma, it is causing the blinking of the eyes, and the body part is the eyes. If you want to check yourself about whether kurma is working properly, whenever you cut an onion, you will immediately have a sensation of tears in the eyes. That is the proof that kurma is working in your body. Just like whenever you try to consume this neem juice, you should immediately have the sensation of vomiting, which means that naga is in place. Now, whenever smoke goes into the eyes also, eyes will start producing tears. And in general, why blinking happens? Blinking is regularly happening to keep the eyeballs wet. In the sense, eyes should never become dry. If they should not become dry, the surface of the eyeballs must be regularly lubricated. So, without our own voluntary decision, eyelids keep blinking. In the Lalita Sahasranama Stotra, there is one particular stanza or verse which says, Unmesha nimishotpanna vipanna bhuvanavalihi. Unmesha, nimesha, utpanna. Unmesha means opening of the eyelids. Nimesha means closing of the eyelids. So that is happening as a subconscious activity. And the guiding energy for this blinking activity is kurma. And when kurma gets affected, naga gets affected whenever there is a alcoholic consumption. In the same way, kurma gets affected whenever there's a excess watching of anything by means of the eyes. As I told you earlier, when you consume neem juice, you will get a vomiting sensation, but when people start consuming liquor, Naga stops functioning. Naga gives the signal in the beginning, but later on, when people actually start corrupting their own body by means of the poisonous intake of liquor, the signal dies away, which has been given by the Naga Upaprana, and later on, body has to simply take whatever is forcibly being taken inside. In the same way, initially whenever you start watching either television or mobile phone or computer screen or whatever, even the newspaper reading, initially the Kurma Upaprana gives you a signal by producing tears in the eyes. Now if you ignore the tears in the eyes, gradually eyes will remain dry and you will have eyesight related or vision related issues. That is why I have put a column here as lifestyle issue, whereas excessive watching of anything is going to harm the Kurma Upaprana, and maybe after some time, just like Naga Upaprana will not function, even the Kurma Upaprana will not function. Now just like for the Naga Upaprana, the yogic therapy was Shwana Mudra and Agnisara Kriya, even for Kurma Upaprana, in the yogic dimension, there are eye exercises and there is Trataka such as Jyotit Trataka and Bimbat Trataka, which are meant to energize the eyes and to enhance the working of Kurma Upaprana. As for Naga Upaprana, Vamana was the Ayurvedic therapy. In the same way, usage of the herbal eye drops is the therapy for Kurma Upaprana to cleanse the eyes and to maintain the health of the eyes. Let me move on to the third Upaprana called Krikala. It is going to produce the sneezing or coughing sensation, and it is working with the nostrils and the lungs. That means whenever the body feels that something harmful is entering into the nostrils, suddenly sneezing occurs. Even during the cold season, if at all you are moving out when there is too much cold or drizzling outside, you will get sneezing, and this sneezing is because of the sensation at the nostrils about the moisture entering into the lungs. Similarly, if at all something is entering into the lungs, either by mouth, let us say through the mouth, when you inhale, through the throat, if some toxicity is entering into the lungs, immediately body will feel it and the sneezing will occur. So as long as you have sneezing and coughing, you must be sure that Krikala is in place. Please understand, all these effects which I have listed in the second column, they are not signs of any disease or they are not signs of any illness. They are actually signs of the bodily purification, or it is a signal that something is wrong. It is body's way of communicating with you. So when there is sneezing and coughing, it basically means when sneezing is there, body is trying to expel out some toxic thing, maybe the toxic moisture itself, or maybe some poisonous smoke which is going inside. To expel it out, only sneezing happens. And you can also observe, whenever sneezing happens, eyelids get closed. Automatically eyelids get closed, which means brain is also in synchronism with the Upaprana Krikala. Why eyelids close? Because sneezing is basically expelling something out of the body. So at that time, the same toxic thing which was inside the nostrils or inside the body, that is when it is going out, it should not affect the eyes also. So automatically eyelids get closed. Now coughing is happening because something is going inside the lungs, which is sensed by the body as something harmful. If you want to check whether Kurkala is working or not, you can simply inhale some spicy powder. Any general rasam powder or sambar powder, which is very common in the South Indian cooking style. If you simply sniff a little bit of such powder, immediately you should get sneezing, which is an indication that Kurkala is working. Now, why Kurkala stops working? Because of the tobacco smoke, because of the dirtiest habit of smoking cigarettes, due to which now, initially whenever such a harmful smoke was going inside, coughing was happening, sneezing was happening. Now, the stupid person makes it a habit to smoke a cigarette on a daily basis. Maybe one or maybe one pack or maybe 10 packs, up to the person's will and wish. Now gradually body adapts to that particular harmful effect also in its own way, and Kurkala stops working. Now, if you have to have a therapy for Kurkala, in the yogic tradition, we have a kriya called Nadi Shodhana, and we have a pranayama called Nadi Shuddhi, which will keep the lungs also clean, which will keep the nostrils also clean. Now in the Ayurvedic tradition, there is a therapy for Kurkala that is basically called Nasya. Means inhaling a medicinal powder into the nostrils so that the nostrils are cleansed, and whenever this Nasya therapy is administered, there will be enough sneezing. Basically, this Nasya is a medicinal powder which is ingested into both the nostrils. In Ayurveda, there are nasal drops as well. Instead of this medicinal powder, they can use a medicinal liquid. Even when this liquid is ingested into the nostrils, sneezing is going to happen. Sometimes sneezing will happen 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, sometimes 50 times. It goes on. Now that is an indication that body is effectively trying to expel out whatever is being ingested into the nostrils. That is how Kurkala can be kept efficient. Coming to the fourth upaprana called Devadatta. Yawning is its effect. Basically, yawning is what? When the body is exhausted or when the body needs a rest, at that time also yawning happens. Otherwise, let us say you are right now disinterested with this particular session, then also yawning will happen. Whenever you are disinterested in whatever you are watching or you are listening, then also yawning happens. You are consciously disinterested. Subconsciously, the body understands or thinks that this may not be needed. That is one thing. Second thing is, whenever there is a large amount of toxins being accumulated in the lungs, at that time, to expel that stale air which is there already in the lungs, to expel the complete amount of stale air at once, then also yawning happens. You can observe the process of yawning. Whenever you yawn, without your own personal effort, mouth gets widely opened and the air goes out in a gush. Inhalation also happens in a gush. Inhalation also happens forcibly at that time, and it gets immediately followed by a forceful exhalation, which means the stale air which is there in the system is expelled out. Now obviously, because of yawning, the body part used is mouth only. So this is the action of Devadatta. And the self-checking is, when you have sleeplessness, automatically you will keep on getting yawning, where the body is indicating, or because of the sleeplessness, toxins are accumulated in the lungs and it is trying to expel them out. Whenever you are sleepless, whenever you are restless, in both the cases. body is having a lack of energy, and to replenish its own energy system, it may induce sleep also. This is Devadatta. And the lifestyle issue is night watch. Means if you are awakened at night, then if that becomes a regular habit, initially yawning will keep on happening. But if you become habituated with remaining awake at night and sleeping at day, maybe due to your own lifestyle issue or maybe due to some other issue, now initially yawning will keep on happening. If it continues this way only, then the yawning also will not happen. As such, in the previous cases of Upaprana also, initially body gives the signal, later on if the signals are ignored and if the lifestyle is continued in the same manner, later on signals also will die out. And that is the sign that Devadatta will stop working at that time. Now to improve the efficiency of Devadatta, in the yogic therapy, we have pranayama like Mahat Yoga, Savitri, Kapalabhati. Mahat Yoga and Savitri are basically for increasing the energy level of the body. And Kapalabhati is basically expelling out the stale air from the system. That way, we are helping the body to expel the stale air. Now, as Devadatta is an indication of restlessness or lack of energy in the body, in the Ayurvedic way, the body's energy level can be increased by the consumption of rasayana. And I have already told you enough about rasayana. And I hope all of you who are listening to me have been buying at least one type of rasayana, at least Chavanaprasha, and you have been following. I hope that way. The last Upaprana is Dhananjaya, which is going to cause wheezing. Whenever I say wheezing, wheezing is not the wheezing because of the bronchial asthma. Okay, it is not due to the disease of bronchitis. Of course, in many diseases also, vomiting is going to happen and sneezing, coughing is going to happen. But that is again, this Upaprana working that way to cleanse the system. So, basically what is wheezing? Wheezing means at the throat, there will be some choking and there will be difficulty in breathing. Now, the body part is obviously throat only. Self-check for Dhananjaya is, if at all you are having a comfortable breathing, then Dhananjaya will not induce wheezing. This Dhananjaya is unlike the 4 previous Upapranas. For example, burping, vomiting, blinking, sneezing, coughing and yawning is a regular signal of the previous Upapranas. But in the case of Dhananjaya, if the breathing is happening properly, wheezing will not happen. In general, wheezing happens at what age? In the old age. Generally, in the Ayurvedic dimension, it is told that in the very young age, it is the Kapha dosha which is working more. In the middle age, it is Pitta dosha which is working more. In the old age, it is Vata dosha working more. In general. Now, in the old age, even Kapha dosha can also happen. And in general, Kapha dosha means there is a retention of fluids in the body. And the reduction in physical exercise is going to reduce the breathing intake. And in such case, as I've been telling you earlier, up to certain age, the body grows, and after certain age, the body maintains itself. After certain age, further, the body decays within. So wherever there are more and more collection of fluids in the body, Those fluids may be toxic fluids where there may be a collection of germs, and that indicates that body is decaying within. So wheezing is not a regular sign. Wheezing is a sign that there is heavy aging happening and someday breathing may stop. As long as you have a comfortable breathing, wheezing will not happen. So lifestyle issue is lack of exercise. Whenever there is lack of efficient or effective physical exercise, the body will not remain warm. When the body does not remain warm, when the body becomes cool, fluids will get accumulated even in the throat area, and then proper breathing will not happen. In general, wheezing means when the air is coming out, there is a phlegm that is accumulated near the throat region or in the lungs also. And when the air is moving through the phlegm or through this fluid medium, it is producing that strange sound that is called wheezing. So, at the time of death, the last upaprana to start working or stop working is Dhananjaya. Because Naga, Kurma, Krakala, Devadatta, they keep on working lifelong, whereas Dhananjaya is unmanifested till then. In the old age, Dhananjaya gets manifested, which means in the old age, before death happens, before that, maybe within a few weeks or maybe within a few months or even a few years, when people develop this wheezing. Again, please remember, I am not referring this to the bronchial asthmatic issues. I am not referring to the health issues. I am referring to the body's symptoms. So if wheezing starts in the old age, then it means that body is becoming more and more cooler. Body was supposed to be warmer. So that is again because of lack of physical exercise. Now, how to conquer this negative effects of Dhananjaya? Actually, we do not want Dhananjaya to get manifested earlier, right? Healthy life means Dhananjaya should manifest itself at the end. What is actually Dhananjaya? Dhananjaya is another name for Arjuna. What is actually Devadatta? Devadatta basically means given by God. Deva means God, Datta means given. You look at the names given to these: Naga, Kurma, Krakala, Devadatta, Dhananjaya. I will not get into the Sanskrit terminologies here because in the online session I cannot teach you Sanskrit. But those who are interested, you can go through the terminologies and specifically understand why such names are kept for these upapranas. Okay. So Dhananjaya is the name given to Arjuna. Basically, that is a metaphor where for the Jivatma, the name given as Arjuna, for the Paramatma, the name given as Krishna. So, the Jivatma will manifest itself in the last stage. Until then, whether the Jivatma is there or not, itself is hidden. Until then, people have no time to find out that this body is guided by what type of power. Because they are all stuck with their own ego, their own mind, their own memory. Right? Manaschitta buddhi ahankara. They are stuck by their own intellect. So people are unbothered till then about body is governed by which type of power. Now that is Dhananjaya, which is going to show itself only at the fag end of life. That is when I told in the old age, in general, people will have wheezing or breathing issues. Now, the reason is lack of exercise, and the therapy through yoga is Mukhadhauti and Bandhatraya. Mukhadhauti, dhauti basically means cleansing. Mukadauti means expelling the air out of the body through the mouth in installments. Anyway, you're going to learn it in the practical sessions. Bandhatraya means combination of three bandhas. Mula bandha, Udyana bandha, Jalandhara bandha. By means of the practice of bandhatraya, body becomes more warm. When the body remains warm, there will be less accumulation of fluids in the body or at the throat region, and wheezing will not happen. And the Ayurvedic therapy is the regular consumption of Chavanaprasha. Chavanaprasha keeps the complete body warm, it keeps the blood clean, and it keeps the respiratory apparatus also efficient. So, I have completed this table now. This is a God-given immunity check. My dear listeners, please understand whatever I have told and don't apply a lot of logic here, because these are all simple common sense only. Whatever I have told you till now in this slide is basically common sense. But common sense becomes so uncommon when people do not admit the fact as it is. Instead, they have their own twisted logic. For example, alcoholics will have their own defense. Excessive television watchers or mobile watchers or computer watchers will have their own excuses. Even the smokers will have their own excuses. Even the people who keep on remaining awakened at night time, they will have their own reasons. And people who do not involve themselves in the physical exercise, they also will have their own reasons. If people keep on justifying all of these activities, which are their lifestyle issue, then I should honestly tell that karma will take its own course and the upaprana will stop working, Dhananjaya will start working, Naga Kurma Krikala Devadatta will stop working. And that is your destiny if you decide yourself to be that way. However, in the domain of yoga there is therapy, in the domain of Ayurveda there is therapy. The domain of yoga is for those people who can independently heal themselves. The Ayurvedic domain is for those people who cannot independently heal themselves. Some other therapist will heal them by means of these methods. Let me continue to my next slide. If at all you have any questions, you can keep putting it in the chat box. At 8:45, I will be seeing the chat box for any questions which I can answer. Meanwhile, I'll give a little work. Those who are interested in learning Samskrita or those who have at least some basic knowledge of Samskrita, you can go through the resources to find out the meaning of Naga, Kurma, Krikala. Devadatta and Dhananjaya I have already told. You can find out why the name is kept as Naga, why the name is kept as Kurma, why a serpent is kept the name, and why a tortoise is kept the name. You can find out. You can find out about the meaning of Krikala on your own. As I have told you, I will not take any Samskrita classes online that way. People may not be interested also. For those who are interested, you can find out why the yogis kept these strange names. It seems as if they are very strange names, but they have a high relevance with their functionality. So, you people are already familiar about the Pancha Kosha, right? Annamaya Kosha, physical body. Pranamaya Kosha, etheric body. Manomaya Kosha, astral body. Vijnanamaya Kosha, psychic body. Anandamaya Kosha, causal body. Regarding Pranamaya Kosha, in the beginning of this presentation itself, I had shown you the beautiful findings of Barbara and Brennan. Now, each Kosha as such is more subtler than the previous one. Annamaya Kosha is the grossest one. Pranamaya Kosha is slightly subtle. Manomaya kosha is still subtler. Vijnanama kosha is more subtler. Anandamaya kosha is the subtlest out of all these five. Which means each of these koshas is again made up of matter only. Please recall the basics which I discussed in the third set of slides, Sacred Secret, where due to the will of the divine consciousness, string theory, quark theory, subatomic theory, atomic theory, then material science, elements. Please recall all those basics. So, matter is subtle in its own construction. In the sense, right now whatever we are seeing, sensing, it is the grossest matter. For sensing the pranamaya kosha, it requires training. Either you have to learn pranic healing, or you have to make your hands or eyes more sensitive. Now, physical sensation of annamaya kosha is already known to all of you. Every day, day in and day out, we are all experiencing our physical body. For sensing the pranamaya kosha, it requires subtle training, and for manomaya kosha, it requires thought control, meditative practices. For vijnanamaya kosha, it requires nullification of thoughts, stoppage of thoughts. Gradually, if you do all that, you will have the anandamaya kosha revealed. Otherwise, anandamaya kosha may never get revealed. I had already discussed about dhyana, savikalpa samadhi, nirvikalpa samadhi. Which means, if people say that whether pranamaya kosha exists or not, what is the proof? Then I should tell you, either learn pranic healing or become more sensitive to the energy that is keeping your body alive. Don't think that it is only the food that is keeping you alive. Don't think that it is only the oxygen which is being supplied into your body by means of breathing is keeping you alive. Those are outcome of biochemistry's experiment. But it is the prana which is keeping the body alive. So if you have to feel your own prana or experience your own prana, then you should become more sensitive in understanding your own body or experiencing your own body. In most of the people, body is used only for eating, shitting and meeting. In such a cases, how can they be more sensitive to experience their own body? Body needs to be purified heavily so as to experience prana. That is when we can talk more about kundalini or the dormant energy that is hidden in the body. Now, if you have to experience your own mind, what you are supposed to do? You will have to regulate your thoughts. You will have to cleanse your memory. Then I can say, can you experience your own mind? You will say, how can we experience our mind? Then I say, are you the mind or are you the owner of the mind? I should ask you, right? If you think that you are the owner of the mind, then you are using your own mind, then it is possible to experience the mind. Mind is beyond the brain. Now, mind is part of natural ego. So, is it possible to experience mind? Yes, it is possible to experience mind if you become the owner of the mind. But as long as you remain the servant of the mind, it is not that you are experiencing the mind, but mind is experiencing you. So it requires further training to experience the mind. And I have already told you much about the practices of Ashtanga Yoga. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. This is the time-tested method given by Maharshi Patanjali to experience all these 5 bodies or 5 sheaths or 5 koshas. Now, is it possible to experience your Vijnanamaya kosha or the psychic body? Yes, because Vijnanamaya kosha is the seat of intellect. Manomaya kosha is the seat of mind. When Vijnanamaya kosha is the seat of intellect, from where thoughts are arising and how thoughts become decisions, and how come decisions can be changed by the changing of thoughts, and how thoughts are related to memory, and how that memory recall or memory storage can be regulated. All that can be controlled, then you are experiencing your own Vijnanamaya kosha. Again, the point is, whenever a decision is taken, is a decision taken by you or you are living the decisions? Are you under the influence of the decisions which are coming out of Vijnanamaya kosha, or are you the one who is taking these decisions? For that, it requires Pratyahara, Dharana, then Dhyana. So it is possible to experience your own Vijnanamaya kosha, provided you become the owner of your thoughts, you become the owner of your decisions. You develop the courage, you develop the willpower so as to claim ownership over whatever is under your control. And stop worrying about whatever is not under your control. The problem with human beings is that they do not really control whatever is under their control. Instead, they keep on trying to control everything else which is not actually under their control. For example, right now in Bengaluru, there is very cold weather, drizzling, and that is because of the cyclone which is occurring at the Bay of Bengal, and the east coast of India is affected by the cyclone, but this is not under our control. Whatever is happening outside is not under our control. What is under our control? To keep ourselves safe, to keep ourselves warm, is under our control. To retain our own health is under our control. So, we observe that people keep on discussing about the things which are not under their control, and people are not really putting an effort to control those things which are actually under their control. Then I say that they are not able to experience their own Vijnanamaya kosha, or they are not able to have an exercise over their own intellect. That requires effort to regulate the decisions. That is when I can say that you can experience your Vijnanamaya kosha. Now, through this Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, if we can really become egoless, then you are experiencing Anandamaya kosha. Ananda means bliss, unconditional bliss. Whereas happiness and joy, they are all conditional. Bliss is unconditional. For example, fish can be only happy or joyful. If fish has to be under bliss, fish should be in line with water, because water is blissful state. Same way, Anandamaya kosha is the one which can be experienced by you if you completely become egoless. That means when the individual ego is vanishing, there are no decisions, there are no thoughts, and there is no activity of the mind, then you are actually experiencing Anandamaya Kosha. So in brief, I have told you about the 5 sheaths or 5 koshas or 5 bodies, so to say. Out of these 5, only one is directly visible and sensible to you. Other 4 are invisible or insensible to the normal people. Just because it is insensible to the normal people should not come to the conclusion that the other 4 do not exist. As I had told earlier, one sentence, absence of evidence is not the evidence for absence. Please remember that. Absence of evidence is not the evidence for absence. So, if you cannot experience Pranamaya Kosha, if you cannot experience Manomaya Kosha, then that is your limitation. Because there have been spiritual masters who have experienced all these 5 koshas, right? Annamaya Kosha, anyhow, everybody is experiencing. The physical body, everybody is experiencing. But the other 4 bodies, there are trainings, there are learnings to experience. I have been repeatedly telling you about the pranic healing methodology, by means of which you can actually experience the etheric body. Yours also, others also. In the same way, I had told you about Dr. Narayan Sawant, who can perform astral travel. That means he has been regularly experiencing his Manomaya Kosha. Of course, he has been performing astral traveling. We need not be performing astral traveling. Actually, I have not tried out till now to perform astral traveling. Maybe in future, I may put my efforts in that direction also if I get more and more of free time. But as of now, as I don't have more of free time, I have not got into that domain. But it is possible to experience this Manomaya Kosha by means of astral traveling, or if not astral traveling, at least inner travel. Need not be an external travel. It can be inner travel, by means of which mind can be experienced, intellect can be experienced, and the blissful self can be experienced. By the way, I think I had told you earlier also that physical body and prana and mind and intellect and soul, that is how these 5 koshas are classified. Now, the cause for Annamaya Kosha or the physical body is the hereditary imprints. Because you will have resemblance with your parents, either with the father or with the mother or with both. Obviously, Annamaya Kosha is because of the parental influences. Parental influences on the physical body. So that is obviously hereditary imprints. Now, Pranamaya Kosha is basically of magnetic nature, and there is an influence of planetary forces. That is why to some extent your natal chart or your birth chart is indicating the position of the planets. And your Pranamaya Kosha is formed when you first started taking your breath after you came out of the mother's womb. That is why in the Indian astrological system, or even in the Western astrological system, when a child is born, they will have a natal chart prepared, and it is a document which indicates the position of the planets. And by means of that, to some extent, future of the physical body can be predicted to some extent. The future of the mental body can be predicted to some extent. In the sense, it is like looking at the seed and predicting that it is going to become what in future, a tree or a plant. Same way, as prana is magnetic in nature, and as planets are also working in the magnetic field only throughout, there is an influence of the planetary forces on the Pranamaya Kosha. So, Pranamaya Kosha is under influence of the planetary forces. But what about mind? Mind is under the influence of the social environment. Initially, it was the hereditary imprints from the mother's womb and from the father's body as well. Next, after coming out of the mother's womb, breathing started, and at that time, the Pranamaya Kosha was developed, and around the body, the energy sheet was covered up. Later on, when the child grows, gradually the society around the child is going to influence the child's mind. And the cause for Manomaya Kosha is the social environment. Now, gradually when the child becomes an adult, even though the social environment is influencing the mind of the child, when the child becomes an adult, its basic nature or basic behavior or its interests or its lifestyle depends on its memory. Sometimes it is from this life's memory, but at times it is from the past life's memory. I have been telling you so many evidences of past life memory. All of us may not be recalling the past life memory, but when we analyze ourselves, many times we are different from our parents, we are different from our friends, we are different from our relatives. When that question comes, why are we different? In my own case, till now I have not recalled my past life. I may not be interested in recalling my past life also, for that matter. Because whatever I was in my past life, if I recall now, then there may be pains there, there may be pleasures there. Why should I recall all of them and bring all of them to this life also? What I want to be in my future life, that is under my control now. But whatever I was in my past life, that is not under my control. Why should I unnecessarily dig that? That is one question. Okay, the next is, I am different from my parents. I am different from my family members. I am different from my friends. I am different from my many relatives. I am basically different from most of the mainstream individuals. Many times the question occurs, why am I different? The answer is, I am different because I have carried that imprint from my previous life. Why was Adi Shankara, being a 5-year-old boy, asking for permission for sannyasa? Why was Vivekananda, when he was Narendra, asking high-level spiritual questions with Ramakrishna Paramahamsa? Why was Ramana, being a young boy, suddenly left his home and got settled in Tiruvannamalai for the lifetime? Why is it so? Why was Mirabai like that? Why was Kabir like that? If we keep on asking, why were they different when compared to the mainstream individuals? It is not the social environment which influenced them. It is not the planetary forces which influence them. It is not the hereditary imprints which influence them. Obviously, they had carried forward their previous life's memory, and right from their birth, they were different. So, the psychic body or the Vijnanamaya Kosha is mainly influenced by the past life memory, provided people are evolved to understand the Vijnanamaya Kosha for that matter. As people are mostly with their Annamaya Kosha only, many times they may not understand in what way the past life memory is also influencing their present life. You will have to read the book Many Lives and Many Masters, written by Brian Weiss, and many other such books where serious medical research has happened and they have found out in what way the past life recall is affecting the present life also. I'm not going to tell you any more examples because I have already told you enough examples. Those who want more examples can go through all those literature. Now lastly, coming to the Anandamaya Kosha. Annamaya Kosha is because of the hereditary imprints. Pranamaya Kosha is because of the planetary forces. Manomaya Kosha is because of the social environment. Vijnanamaya Kosha is because of the past life memory. What about Anandamaya Kosha? Why Sadashiva Brahmendra was like that? Why Avadhuta Nityananda of Kanjangad was like that? There are many like that. Why were they like that? Because they were educated already. They had an education of the self. They might not have had the education of the mundane knowledge. They might not have the education of the normal profession. They might not have the education of the normal materialistic survival. They already had the education of the self, or they have attained the education of the self on their own by being in contact with the self. So I have listed out the 5 causes here. Now all these 5 are influencing all of us in one way or the other. If we correctly analyze and if we understand, then it is possible that all of us also can reach to the state of self-education, provided we are not stuck by the social maya. If at all we try to overcome the effects of social maya, then only we will be able to understand natural maya. Now, all of us have these 5 koshas. Actually, these 5 koshas are there with other moving living beings also. But with others, apart from human beings, with the other moving living beings, the other 4 koshas except the Annamaya kosha are not fully evolved. Now, it is up to the individual to evolve the kosha or not. For example, Annamaya kosha is evolved by nature itself. The physical body is evolved by nature itself. Whether you want to evolve your Pranamaya kosha or not is up to you. By becoming more refined, by practicing pranayama, by learning pranic healing, you have options. Whether you want to evolve into the Manomaya kosha or not is again a choice. Whether you want to refine your mind, whether you want to purify your mind is again a choice. Whether you want to evolve into Vijnanamaya kosha is also a choice. Whether you want to regulate your thoughts, whether you want to have a better decisions. Now, whether you want to be in contact with the self or not is again a choice. Whether you want to evolve into Anandamaya kosha or not, whether you want to be in contact with God or not, is again a choice. That is what is evolution by personal effort. Can individuals be putting personal efforts for evolving through the other 4 bodies, where the first body is evolved by nature itself and the evolution of the other 4 bodies is left to the so-called evolved human beings? That is the freedom given by God to human beings. Now let us say we do not understand the freedom given in this manner. Now what may happen? That is the 4th column. What may happen? As long as you remain with your physical body, you are a human being. That is for sure. Now let us say you leave the human body. You are disconnected from the human body. Death is happening to the human body now. What will be the next state? You will still be there with these four bodies. With your knowledge or without your knowledge, you are with these four bodies. Out of the five, only one has stopped working now. Other four exist. When the other four exist, then the state is the state of a ghost. Now you may say, are we all going to become a ghost? May not be so, or may be so. That's again your choice, right? How you live now decides how you will be in future, right? Now, if your pranamaya kosha is intact, strong, gross, I have already told you about chakras. If they remain so gross, so bound, then you are going to remain a ghost. Now let us say, after the physical body is dead, let us say within 12 days, if this etheric body is also losing its existence, then you will have a better promotion into a state of ancestor. That is, you will have the other three bodies now, provided the pranamaya kosha also dissolves within 12 days after the physical body dies. So you can remember now, in the Indian custom, right from the time of Atharvana Veda, there is this particular custom of performing after-death rituals. In fact, only in the Hindu system, the after-death rituals is also a complicated procedure. Out of the 16 samskaras, Antyeshti is also one samskara. In general, if the human beings are living a worthy life, and when the physical body stops working, gradually breathing has stopped, food ingestion has stopped, and the physical body has stopped working. Within 1 or 2 days, the physical body naturally starts getting decayed. So what people generally do is either they bury it or they burn it. In some customs they bury it, in some customs they burn it. And then Annamaya kosha is now gone. It is no more functioning. What about Pranamaya kosha? If it is remaining functioning, then that is a ghost. Let us say it is not functioning after some time. Just like Annamaya kosha became weaker, in general within 12 days, Pranamaya kosha should become weaker, and after 12 days, they perform a ceremony of after-death rituals that is performed to promote the person from the human state to the ancestor state. Human state is already over. If he or she is still in the state of the ghost, now some homa will be performed, some worship will be performed, some rituals will be performed, especially sesame seeds are used, and at times Gayatri mantra is used, or at times some particular verse from the Bhagavad Gita is chosen, and all those rituals are performed mainly to eradicate the state of ghost from that particular person. Knowingly or unknowingly, the person may be remaining as a ghost. Now the people who are alive in the human bodies, out of their own compassion or out of their own respect, they perform such ritual. Such ritual is present only in the Hindu custom. Such ritual is not present in any other systems on this earth. You can find out on your own. Now, all those other people who think that after physical death there is no more existence, they will not be able to explain the paranormal phenomena of existence of ghosts or possessions or seances or channeling sessions. They are unable to explain all those things. They are stuck with only the physical dimension of life. They are comfortably unaware of other dimensions. I will repeat the sentence. Absence of evidence is not the evidence for absence. Until lessons are learned, lessons will be repeated. So out of a compassion or out of a respect or out of responsibility, in the Hindu custom, they perform the after-death rituals called Shraddha. That is only to prevent the person remaining as a ghost. Again, a question comes. What if such ritual is not performed? Because even in the Hindu custom, all the Hindu people are not involved in performing such after-death rituals. What if that is not performed? Yeah, if it is not performed, the person even after death may remain a ghost with knowledge or without knowledge. And when there is no custom performed, he may take his own time or she may take her own time to get into the third body called Manomaya Kosha. Until then, the person may remain ghost even after 12 days. In general, in metaphysics, they say that the age of the Pranamaya Kosha is double that of the Annamaya Kosha. That means if the physical body was living for 100 years, the etheric body can live for another 100 years, another 200 years, because it is made up of a slightly subtler matter. But it is again a matter only, right? That is how ghosts can remain again for next 200 years. Now you may ask, right now I told it is only for 12 days, isn't it? It is only for 12 days, only for normal people, not for wicked people, not for evil people. It is normal 12 days only for normal, common, ordinary people, not for wicked, evil-minded, egoistic, arrogant people. In those people, again the chakras are bound and Pranamaya Kosha is tighter. So it may not release itself so early. That is why it is told that it can have double the age of the Annamaya Kosha, provided the person has lived an immoral life. I'll come back to the same point. All the religions have been advising to the humankind or human unkind in all ways only with one sole purpose. That is to purify the memory, to purify the memory, to purify the memory, in whichever way. Now, if people do not purify the memory, they remain a ghost for next 200 years if they have lived now for 100 years. And remaining as ghosts, they may keep on troubling others. Now, the question is, will everyone become a ghost or not? Depends on how they have lived when they were with their physical body. You need not think that everyone will become a ghost. Everyone will not become a ghost because everyone is not wicked, everyone is not evil. For example, I had given the example of Aurangzeb. Now, the way in which he lived an evil life, I should say that he would have remained a ghost for next 200 years also, troubling people even in that dimension. Now, you may get afraid by thinking that, what if ghosts disturb us? You need not. As I told you earlier, ghosts are ignorant, stupid existences. If you can transcend the state into the Manomaya Kosha, into the Vijnanamaya Kosha, by means of the yogic practices, meditative practices, why will ghost bother you? Why will you be bothered about the ghost? People are more afraid or worried about ignorant people, or people have to be more interested in becoming intelligent. That is the choice all of us have. So if people are stuck in the Pranamaya Kosha along with the other three, then that is the existence of a ghost. We don't want anybody to remain as a ghost. That is why in the Hindu tradition they perform Out of 16 samskara, one samskara called Antyeshti or Shraddha. Now coming to the third body, astral body or Manomaya Kosha. Let us say you live a normal life and you will have a normal death. You may remain as a ghost only for 12 days. After which, whether somebody performs a Shraddha or not, if you lived a virtuous life, you will not remain a ghost anymore. Because your chakras may be clean, may be pure, may be not so bound. In such a case, within 12 days, all that binding will go away. Because that is also subjected to natural laws. Just like all the material bonds are subjected to natural laws and to aging, even this Pranamaya Kosha is subjected to natural laws, provided you have lived a virtuous life. In such a case, you will not remain a ghost. That is why the 12 days time period is given for performing Shraddha. Let us say nobody performs Shraddha to you or to me. Let us say we don't expect. Let us say we live a virtuous life. For that reason only, for the yogis and for the monks, for the rishis, there is no Shraddha at all. There is no Antyeshti at all. Why? It is assumed that they have lived a virtuous life and when the physical body is dead, they will not remain as a ghost with the Pranamaya Kosha. Now let us say you left your body and after 12 days you are with the Manomaya Kosha. Now you are an ancestor for your family members. You are a Pitra for your family members. Now as a Pitra, you can live much longer. Just remember this. The time in the Annamaya Kosha and Pranamaya Kosha is grossest. Now the time is going to change for a bigger dimension. Look at the last column. I am going to tell about the last column later on. The last column, the time, day, night, month, year and zero. I am going to tell about it later on, not now. Now you may remain with your Manomaya Kosha for maybe many centuries of the physical time. In the physical time, it is 365 days is 1 year, or approximately 360 days is 1 year. But in the Manomaya Kosha, the dimension of time is going to change. Why is it so? Later on I am going to tell you. So in the Manomaya Kosha, you remain as an ancestor or Pitra. Now you can live for centuries together in that way only. You can be in contact with your own family members who were there in the physical plane earlier. Again, that is your choice. Or you can take a rebirth once this Manomaya Kosha is becoming weaker. As there is an aging for physical body, there is an aging for etheric body, there will also be aging for astral body. Until then, you may remain as an ancestor. You may come in your own family members' dreams, or you may come in your own friends' dreams. You still will have attachment to your friends and to your relatives, and you may remain that way. You may again remain bound with whom you were living earlier. Again, that is again your choice. You may come in their dreams, you may come in contact with them, or you may not come in contact with them. Or they may ask you to communicate with them. It is in between you and them. Because you are an ancestor now. Now let us say, after a few centuries, even this Manomaya Kosha gets aged and gets dissolved. Now you are with the last two bodies called psychic body and causal body. And there you will be an angel. Your existence will be like an angel. where you will have a much larger lifespan as an angel. Remember, as a human and as a ghost, it is subjected to the physical time. As an ancestor, the time is going to change. As an angel, the time is going to be much longer with respect to the physical dimension. When you are with the Vijnanamaya Kosha, you are elevated yourself to a much bigger plane of existence that is beyond the ancestral plane. In the case of ancestors, they are bound only to their family members or to their friends or to their relatives or to the close ones who were there in the physical dimension. But when they get elevated into an angel, angels will have much larger plane of existence and they may be connected to many other spiritual aspirants, or angels out of their own compassion may come in contact with many other physical beings just to help them evolve in a better way, just to get their problems solved. Let us say, after this Vijnanamaya Kosha also, let us say, angels are bound even to the material existence that way. But further evolution can happen where a person's will be into sainthood, where they may be having a complete detachment towards whatever is this existence as life and death. And the saints may be completely in touch with God directly. So that way, in all these 5 koshas, there are these 5 states of existence. And always, it's a matter of personal choice or a matter of personal evolution. Now, the state of human body is the physical death. After the physical death, human body does not remain anymore. But in the case of a ghost, it can possess some other human body and can steal the energy from the human body. If a ghost wants to remain a ghost needs energy to survive. That way, it can simply possess some other living human body and take away the energy which is already there with the human body. Just like a normal thief will steal away the money which is earned by some other person, in the same way the prana is earned by some other person, the ghost can simply come upon a person and take away all that energy. Through that energy, the ghost will survive for some more months or some more years. In that way, ghost can survive for many years that way in the physical dimension itself. Or else someday the ghost's pranamaya kosha itself becomes weaker and then it has to get into the next plane called ancestral plane where it has to take a rebirth. Ghost will not take a rebirth. Ghost will only possess others. Ghost will only victimize the other weak-minded human beings. Possession will happen only to the weak-minded human beings, not to the strong-minded, strong willpowered human beings. For the people who have strong willpower, ghost cannot come upon them, because if ghost has to come upon somebody's body, again the chakras come into effect there. Now, in the case of a strong-willed person, the chakras will not permit the entry of other entities. That way, possession to the strong-minded people does not happen. But channeling can happen of the angels, that is in the 4th body. For the ancestors, when the Manomaya Kosha becomes weaker, again they will have to take a rebirth either by their own choice or by the divine law. There is a law that is working. As I told you, from the individual memory, the transfer should not happen to the natural memory. If the transfer happens to the natural memory, automatically nature knows how to reproduce in that way, and rebirth is bound to happen, and whatever was the previous memory is going to recur once again. In fact, that is a better plan of evolution that way. Otherwise, we would never have had Adi Shankara. We would never have had Swami Vivekananda. We would never have had Patanjali also. Okay. Now, beyond the astral body, if an existence elevates itself into angelic dimension, then for thousands of years, the angel can remain that way, guiding to the mortals. How it will guide to the mortals? It can guide to the mortals by channeling through some other human body. Now think about the ghost. Ghost is possessing a human body for the selfishness of the ghost itself. Whereas angel is going to use some other body as the channel to guide people again into the quality life. In the case of the ghost, the purpose is different. In the case of the angel, the purpose is different. In the ghost of the ghost, it is the selfish motive of the ghost to steal prana. Whereas in the case of the angel, it is not the motive. The motive is to help people live better lives. Now this angel can live that way for centuries, for millenniums, because it is a still subtler existence. Now in the case of a saint, in the Anandamaya Kosha, when the saint gets into a Savikalpa Samadhi and into a Nirvikalpa Samadhi, saint is not attached to anything. At least a human is attached to material existence, and a ghost is attached to stealing energy from the others. Ancestor is attached to his own or her own family members, and angel is attached to, at least to some extent, having a motive to help other living beings to live a better life. Now the saint is totally unattached with any of these existences. Saint is one with God, and God is egolessness. So in the case of a saint, it is the final death. Actually the samadhi is the meaning of samadhi, sam a adhi, where it is liberation, salvation, kaivalya, nirvana, moksha, mukti, aikya, whatever word you use. So in that respect, a saint or a rishi is completely detached, whereas the angel is also attached, an ancestor is also attached, a ghost is also attached, a human being is much more attached. Now if a human being directly tries to become a saint, that is the greatest evolution possible, and that is what yoga is for. Human being, without becoming a ghost, without becoming an ancestor, without becoming an angel, can a human being directly turn into a saint? Directly from Annamaya Kosha, can he directly transcend to Anandamaya Kosha? Of course, by means of transcending through Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya Koshas. That is the power of yoga. From Yamanayama to Asana Pranayama to Pratyahara Dharana to Dhyana Samadhi, human being will elevate himself or herself into a saint, to be one with the God. So that is the final death, and the time is zero, because God is timelessness, egolessness. Now let me come to the dimension of time. For the dimension of time, the reference is Surya Siddhanta, which was written in 6th century before Christ. In the Surya Siddhanta, this is mentioned. Whatever I mentioned in the last column is mentioned. For the Annamaya Kosha, it is the daytime. For the Pranamaya Kosha, it is the night time. In the sense, For the Annamaya Kosha, we need sunlight for replenishment, for energy, whereas for ghosts, it is the night time. In the sense, human beings want to be working in the daytime and taking rest at night time, whereas ghosts cannot handle that much of energy in the daytime because it is a subtler form of existence for them, but they'll be more active in the night time. That is when they say that ghosts energy and the moon's movement are related. Most of the occult practices happen on the new moon day, Amavasya. Why? Because on the day of Amavasya or new moon day, there is no influence of moon's light also in nature. When there is no influence of moon's light on nature, ghost is having its own freedom to work in its own way. When the sunlight is coming, it is too heavy for the ghost and the ghost cannot work during daytime. And during night time, even on the new moon day, as the moonlight or moon's energy is also not influencing, ghost's energy is sufficient to perform bothering to others. So most of the occult practices happen only on the new moon day especially, or on the day of Amavasya especially. But in the occult practices, there are two things called Vamachara and Dakshinachara. One is for the welfare and one is for the destruction. That the destruction or the evil motive is called Vamachara, or the welfare or the good motive is called Dakshinachara. Now the people of Dakshinachara practice on the full moon day or on the Purnima. On the Purnima, moon's energy is much more abundant on nature and human beings can tap into this energy and they can perform some other occult practices. I do not say it as spiritual practices, but they are occult practices or technical practices or tantric practices. Otherwise, human beings' time and ghost time are one and the same, except for this day and night difference. Time is the same physical time. Whereas for the ancestors, 1 month of human beings is equivalent to 1 day for the ancestors. Because moon takes 1 month to come around earth. So somehow moon's movement is connected to ancestral existence. So that way time is related. Moon takes 1 month to come around earth and that is the another dimension of time. In the physical dimension, it is only earth rotating. That is day and night. And moon revolving around earth. That is 1 month. So 1 month on the earth is equivalent to 1 day for the ancestors. That is why in the Shraddha Vidhi or Antyeshti, on the day of departure of the ancestor, next year on the same day, the same Shraddha karma is performed or that ritual is performed. Because for us it is 1 year, for them it is a shorter time. Because 1 month on physical plane is equivalent to 1 day for the ancestors. Now similarly for the angels, the time is much larger. 1 year on the earth is equivalent to 1 day for the angels. Why? Because now this is related to earth's movement around the sun. That is another dimension of time. Earth takes 1 year to go around sun. Now that is relevant to sun's time. You can understand moon's time is shorter, earth's time is longer, sun's time is much longer. That way day night is shorter, month is longer, year is much longer. In that way the existences are also related. Now angel will have a much larger time. In the sense 1 year on earth is equivalent to 1 day for the angel. That is why I told you ancestors can remain that way for centuries, whereas angels can remain that way for millenniums. Whereas for the saint, there is no time. When saint is one with the God, there is no time. This way you can understand the 3 dimensions of time, and you can understand the salvation or liberation aspect also. Ghost will have no liberation, ancestor will have no liberation, angel will have no liberation. If liberation has to happen, ancestor has to take a rebirth. Ghost has to become an ancestor, then again take a rebirth. That is again ghost's choice. Otherwise, ghost can keep on possessing people and keep on causing harm, remaining itself wicked and evil that way. Or angel also has no liberation, no salvation, because angel can remain for millenniums. How that liberation happens, later on let us see. Now the saint is liberated either by Videha Mukti or by Jivan Mukti. For all the others, it is human existence, then ancestral existence, rebirth, again human existence, ancestral existence, rebirth. They will be stuck with this karmic cycle. And cycle of karma continues that way. Now that is Krama Mukti. Until one really deeply intends for liberation. Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani Jathare Shayanam. That will go on this way. Okay, there is a big question here. Animals are free after they die, even though they have these 5 koshas. They are not going through the state of ghost, ancestor and angel, etc. Is this just because they are not attached to any material things and they don't have much memory as human? You're exactly right. They are not as evolved as human beings in the other koshas. Even though their physical body is as evolved as the human beings, their other koshas are not as evolved because there is a freedom of evolution. Now you can learn pranic healing, right? Or you can perform pranayama, right? And you can avoid yourself becoming a ghost also, right? By refining yourself. You can meditate, you can control your sense organs, and you can avoid becoming an ancestor also that way, right? By detaching yourself, right? Animals and birds are already detached that way. They do not know what is attachment, what is detachment. That way they are all ignorant. Because they are ignorant, they will not get into any of these dimensions. Their physical death itself is their liberation. That is what is called Videha Mukti. Now human being is given all these choices of evolution. To some extent, God has evolved the physical body. To other extents, God has given these free existences. Now, you may think ghost is a wrong state, angel is a right state. You may think that way because you remaining a human will think that way. But with God's dimension, there is nothing like wrong state or right state because all these are individual choices given. It is a choice given to elevate yourself. Ultimately, someday, some other deluge is going to happen where everything will be eradicated on the surface of earth. Let me not tell you today. In my next slides, I have that information. Let me tell at that time. Let me not confuse you by telling more and more of such things now. Later on, anyhow, I am going to relate to all that. But now, by this slide, please understand that whatever I have been telling you till now, the law of karma, the law of refinement of memory, the freedom to live either a virtuous life or a sinful life, the freedom to live like a real human or like an animal or worse than an animal. Everything is a personal choice. and the choice is given by the divine only to the human. How to use it again is up to the human. And you can understand the dimensions of time as I mentioned you here. Let me repeat that famous way in which time is counted in the Hindu rituals. Om Adya Brahmane Dvitiya Parardhe Shvetavaraha Kalpe Vaivasvata Manvantare Ashtavimshatitame Kalau Yuge Prathama Pade. That is how they count the time. This is taken from the Vishnu Puranam and it is there in many other books also. Om Adya Brahmane Shvetavaraha Kalpe. I have not put all those descriptions in these slides. It is too much mathematical. If you people are interested, let me show that information when I start my practical classes. But not in these slides. It is too heavy for the time being. So how they count the time? They count the time as Adya Brahmanaha Shvetavaraha Kalpa Vaivasvata Manvantaraha. They divide time into years, then into yugas, into manvantaras, and into kalpas. And in the kalpa, there are millions of years, billions of years in the physical dimension. You can relate it in that way. Moon is coming around Earth. Earth is coming around Sun. Sun is around Milky Way. Milky Way galaxy itself is moving around. We don't know around what the Milky Way galaxy is moving. Now you can think about the time of the Milky Way galaxy. You can think about the time of the Sun. You can think about the time of the Earth and the Moon. Now you can understand time is not actually the time in which we think of. We think of time as only day and night. But that is related to only the Earth's rotation. What about Earth's revolution? What about Moon's revolution? What about Sun's movement? What about the galaxy's movement? That is where time is mysterious. Now, human being has a choice to directly become a saint by transcending all these three states of ghost, ancestor and angel. Human being also has a choice to be born again, to die again. Or human being has a choice to have a Jivan Mukti like an Avadhuta. Let me tell all those things in the future slides. For today, let me stop this session. See you tomorrow at the same time. Until then, take care, be healthy, be happy. Bye-bye.